we get behind in our parenting, and we get focused on parenting our kids where they're at rather than focusing on parenting our children toward who we want them to become.
Our sons can handle a lot more than we think, and we lower our minimum standard for men because of what culture teaches us about manhood. It's to allow them, and sometimes even to push them into adversity.
My man, Andy. Good to see you, bro.
You too.
This is the inaugural podcast here with our new fireplace that's not working, and we've just been through a wild experience. We just finished Mancard. You brought your boys up here from California with some pastors and other guys, and we went up into the mountains of Stormy Mountain and have come back very different. Mm-hmm. And we want to talk about it in this podcast. So this podcast is going to be about dads and sons and how to raise them, how dads raise sons to be men. Little context for Andy. Andy's been a dear friend, pastoring Saddleback Church down in California now. For those of us at Grace City listening, Andy's got more folks in his church than we have in our town. So I say that to quantify his leadership. He's a remarkable leader and a gifted man and a dear friend. And so you got two boys and a daughter, and you brought your two boys up here from Mancard. Let's just start there with that. Mancard and what we just experienced. Yeah. It was less than 24 hours ago. Both of us hardly got any sleep this weekend or last night. You can hear it in our voice. How are you doing? Where are you at? What are you processing right now?
Well, I woke up this morning at like 3:45, splitting headache, tons of thoughts in my head, just rolling around. I feel a little bit overwhelmed in a good way. Like just, when you get disoriented, sometimes part of our growth, I think, is just the gift of disorientation. Yeah. And I think this was one of those weekends. Realization, I think, on a personal level, even with just some of the men that we came with, like we have a long way to go as a church, but just felt like a fight a little bit this weekend. Even spiritually, you were talking about that just a moment ago, but I'm also grateful. Like I'm very thankful for the privilege of being in the context of what God's doing here with your church, with your men. The instructors and the men that put this event on are some of the finest men I've ever been around. Just this unique combination of tough and tender, like you often talk about, just authentic passion for God, but love for these young men, ability to display truth and grace at the same time. I just a remarkable experience on a personal level and for all the group that came.
What are we were talking about kind of which way to go with this podcast, like how personal to get, how much to share, and I might get emotional even saying it. I think it's because I'm tired. I got a combined 7 hours of sleep this weekend.
Two really tired men crying.
That'll make for a great podcast. But it was an alley fight.
It was
this weekend and we're still trying to process, even with some of the instructors. It's like, what did we just run into? In the best kind of way, and I think it's indicative of the kind of energy Satan will throw at men who are attempting to raise boys to be men. There is a war for our boys, and it starts with the dads. If Satan can neutralize the dads, and one of the things we ran into repeatedly was just a sense of shame, failure, inadequacy in the hearts of the dads, and how that neuters them then to call anything great out of their sons because they don't feel worthy or like they know what they're doing. And so if a Satan can take out one man who's a dad, he can take out potential future generations of men. So one of the takeaways for me was men who are listening, you don't know how valuable your life is to the battle. It's not just about you. Like, it matters that you get it right and you deal with your demons. And you go to war. And one of the ways you go to war, and Norris was pointing this out with you and your boy and some other men, it's like you have to learn how to receive the love of the Father. That heals it all. It's not that God's expecting us to be tougher and harder and meaner. He's like, would you knuckleheads just sit down and receive my love for you as a son? Let me look you in the eye and tell you I love you. And then what that does in the heart of a son, it fortifies them for battle. Let me ask you some questions.
Let me say one thing about that. Just an observation about pastors, because there were a lot of pastors on this occasion. I think about half the guys were pastors. Some of them were like lay leaders in churches.
Which I think added to
Yeah, it added complexity, spiritual dynamics.
Yes.
One thing about pastors, even on a personal level, like I am not used to being in a receiving mode, right?
Yeah.
So
that's really
like
good.
most of my life, and I prefer to be in the giving mode.
Yeah.
I like to give. And
Why do you think that is?
that's a great question. How vulnerable do I get?
Yeah. How many people listen to this podcast again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, on a personal level, I think I grew up and my dad was a single father. He did a great job raising me.
Yeah.
One of his statements to me always was, "You're smart, figure it out." Like that was his that was his primary go-to.
Yeah.
I think is a good statement for young men.
Yeah.
But I developed even this as a young man, like I need to contribute, like I need to help out.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that is good.
Yes.
It can become habitual and ingrained in your character. And when you're in that mode, it exposes you more when you're not helping,
That's
it exposes your weaknesses.
That's right.
So I think sometimes it's just easier to have that guard up. I can take care of myself and others.
Yep.
I don't need help.
Wow.
And so I think there's a dynamic of that.
It postures us in a position of strength.
Yeah.
True or fake. It makes us feel strong. That's good. I interrupted you. Keep going.
I don't even know what else I was going to say.
Yeah, I knew I was going to derail you. You were reflecting on the nature of pastors being there.
Yeah, and just that pastors, I think, are so used to being in that giving mode and have learned how to communicate with that pastor facade, right?
Yep.
So you have it together.
Yep.
So I think, but our progress as men and with our sons doesn't happen with the fake us, right?
That's right.
So that's not like Norse's statement. God doesn't operate in the realm of lies. He operates in the truth.
That's right.
And so I think a lot of pastors have learned to operate with that facade, and it creates a complexity until that's dealt with.
That's right. That's right. That's really good. So for those that are listening that don't know what Mancart is a 4-day rite of passage experience designed for fathers and sons. So fathers bring their sons to Wenatchee. We take them out into the mountains, and night one is orientation, and where they get oriented to what we're going to do, and then there's an initiation. And if the boys don't pass, they don't go into the weekend. And so right out of the gate, there's a test, and right out of the gate, there's a challenge, and right out of the gate, they got to make a decision: do I want to be here? Or do I want to do this? And it's not an easy test. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's a gut check.
You described this to me like for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's hard to like fully understand it until you experience it. And so this group, like, I think we've been having conversations about pulling together a group of pastors and even me bringing my sons up. Yep. So we did like this recruiting of guys.
Yep.
And so Josh and I are on, we're putting together this Zoom, probably sent out 250 emails, like pastors, our staff, their sons, key leaders in our church. And so we get on this Zoom, and somehow we got our wires mixed. Josh is like coming in hot, right? And so I'm there with the guys for about 30 minutes.
That might have been more on me than you, but
I don't know who it was. I'll take extreme ownership.
It's my fault. Yeah.
So
I'm sitting in a staff meeting, and I look down, I have like 8 texts from Andy. You gonna join us anytime?
Well, I'm like
totally late.
I keep trying to describe it, right? I just keep saying the same thing.
Josh will show up eventually.
Yeah. And then finally I was like, you know what? I really don't even know what it is. I just know I really trust my friend, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm going.
Yeah. He's very dependable. So as soon as he gets to our meeting here that he's 30 minutes late for,
it's going to be great. Oh man.
So let's pause on that. That first night of initiation, watching your boys getting ready to do what they got to do. What was that like for you as a dad?
Okay, so do you want what they did on there or no? Like this it probably needs to be...
I don't think we want to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, they did something really hard.
Yeah.
Right. Let's just say that.
Slightly dangerous, very hard.
Yeah. And something that probably neither of us would want to do, but would be good for us too. So, but watching them, you're just out of control, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to deal with this like. They're going into a place where I can't control them. I can encourage them on the backside.
Yes.
Right. And then as they step into it, Like they're either prepared or they're not. Like when the moment comes, they're either ready or they're not.
That's
and there's
right.
nothing I can do at that moment. The other thing too, the other observation for me on a personal level was the trust in your team of like, okay, there are other godly men that have had these guys up the hill getting ready for this moment. And I trust them. I have to put my trust in some other godly men on the journey with me. And so that was like, okay, you're out of control. You got to trust. They're either ready or they're not. But when they come out, you can encourage them. You know?
Yeah. There's two events happening. There's the event the boys are doing, and then there's what the dads are going through. And we do that intentionally Thursday night because part of the rite of passage process and journey is the separation. And it's the separation from the sons, from the tribe of comfort. So mom, home, friends, comfort, familiarity, all those things. You're trying to separate the boys from those things so they're uncomfortable. The unique dynamic about this iteration, this cycle, was that almost none of the boys knew each other except for a couple siblings. So new state, new people, new environment. It was instantly uncomfortable from moment one. And then in the context of that uncomfortable moment, you're putting them in an uncomfortable situation that will be hard with friends and people you know. And all that's designed to separate and isolate them to be tested. But what's also happening is they're separating from their dads a little bit. And that's a necessary step too. It's like you can't rely on the strength of your dad anymore. You can't rely on the wisdom of your dad anymore. Those are things you can draw from as a man. I still draw from the wisdom of my dad, but you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And so it's a challenge for dads to sit there and not want to get in and help. And we have a moment where I say, "No, look, here's the deal. If these boys don't pass this initiation, you're driving them home and staying in a hotel tonight and flying home tomorrow. They're not going to stay and go into the course. This is a big deal." And then I say, "So here's what I'm telling you. Let them be tested and let them fail if necessary. But if they're flagging and uncertain, your job is to get out there and make sure that they pass this." And that would involve doing some very hard and uncomfortable things for the dads. And we were sitting there in the dark as the boys were coming down out in the headlamps, and you turned to the dads and you said, "I have a feeling I'm going to be in the middle of this soon."
Yeah.
And what you were saying was, I think my boys are going to need help.
Yeah.
When your boys manned up and did it on their own, what was that feeling like?
Man, I was so proud of both of them.
Yeah.
Just watching them go through what they were walking through.
Yes.
Yeah, there was so much just, man, there's my boys right there.
That's right.
Standing as men, doing something that's really hard, persevering, doing it with calm.
Yep. I think, do you mind mentioning your boys by name?
Yeah, Cademan is 18.
Okay.
Sammy's 16. So Cademan is about 6'3", 300 pounds.
He's giant.
Huge.
Yep.
And then Sammy is 16.
Wiry.
Yeah, he's like, looks like a lightweight boxer, super ripped.
Yep.
But so Sammy's adopted. Cademan's biological, and then Karis, our daughter's 12.
Yep. Without going into too many specifics, maybe we'll get into it a little later in the pod, but I saw things come out of Sammy this weekend that I'm not sure if he knew he had it in him.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. Did you see that?
I totally did. Yeah. I felt like even just watching him in this environment, part of the like wilderness, military, the regimented structure, he's wired for it. Like you can see it in him. Like he's got that soldier, I'll follow orders.
That's right.
But I'm going to work hard with a smile on my face. I was, so much came out of him this weekend.
Every instructor were like, he'd roll in the checkpoint like happy as a clam.
Yeah.
Smiling, going for it. The story when he's got that 100-pound weight Sam bag he's carrying up the hill, and he's walking up the hill 100 pounds. This is no joke, especially for a kid who's $130.
Yeah,
maybe.
About 150.
150.
If he hears this, he'd probably say,
correct that.
Please fight for my extra 20.
Okay, $150, and I mean lean and mean. You know what I mean? He's packing this thing up, and like legs lock up, like instant muscle cramp. Boom, stiff as a board. Falls over backwards. I mean, like a sycamore tree getting fallen. And because the deal is like these sandbags don't touch the ground. They touch the ground, you're gone. And so he falls wham on the ground. And the first thing he says is, "The sandbag didn't touch the ground. It didn't touch the ground." and one of our instructors runs over like, "You okay, man?" He's like, yeah, I'm okay. This has never happened to me before. What's happening? Well, you're having muscle cramps. You're dehydrated. He's like, okay, is this normal? And the whole time, Brent said he had this huge smile on his face. So the kid's like halfway through this 18-mile massive ruck. They were being tested and challenged and pushed. And he's carrying this huge weight, and he just full body muscle cramp, fell over. And his two thoughts were, don't fail the mission, and this is fun. So there's something unique in that kid.
Yeah. Let me say one thing.
Yeah.
So, last couple of years have been hard for him in our journey of moving. Yeah. We were in Northern California with a church we planted that had been there 14 years, come to Southern California. And I think that 8th to 10th grade is hard for a lot of young men.
Yeah.
I noticed a shift in his eyes, a hardening in his eyes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the course yesterday, I saw my son again.
Yeah.
I looked into his eyes, and I'm like, that in a humble way, I could see the openness in his eyes.
Yes.
To me.
Yep.
And in that moment of affirmation of him at the end.
Yep.
I was laying in bed last night. I'm like, I saw my son again.
Yeah.
And I want to do everything I can to lean into that.
That's right. That's right.
So thank you.
Yeah. That's a good moment.
We're both tired.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. In our defense, we have not slept much at all. So,
I think too, though, a lot of the tears are, we care about our sons, you know? And I think those tears come from a place of there is nothing I want more, than aside from a great marriage is my kids to walk with Jesus, and to see them make progress is, it's beautiful.
There's oftentimes tears, a lot of tears at Mancard. One day I talked to me, and I don't know him from Adam, and he said, so I've been crying since we got here, and that's why I keep going back to the tent, because I said I don't cry, I never cry, and I've been crying for 24 hours straight, and stuff started coming out in his heart of longing things he wished he would have received from his dad, looking around, seeing these men and how it could be, and for the first time realizing I've had nothing like this, nor have I provided it for my son. And instructors are crying, and as we talk, pray, wrestle, because you're in a battle for the hearts of these boys. You're like, we don't want them to leave unchanged, and we don't want them to leave without tapping into the heart, having that heart open. Many boys came closed, like you said, kind of lights out, closed. And you're like, if we don't leave having broken through to that, they could go back harder. Yeah. And you feel the weight of that. And so in many ways, it feels like a 3D chess game, to take a course that you've built and an experience you've designed, and there needs to be integrity in maintaining the standard that you've set, because we give patches and challenge coins for accomplishments, and those can't be lowered, and we can't threaten the integrity of the program. And you want to tailor it to each young boy so that it's not just this kind of rubber stamp experience, kind of this nameless, faceless boot camp. Yeah. But you're working with the challenge of each boy that each boy brings, and the battle that each boy's fighting.
Well, yeah. One distinctive I think of Mancard is, there are all these man experiences now that over the last few years you can see them popping up in different, and then Boy Scout, Girl Scout combo, whatever that is now.
Tranny Scout.
Yeah, but the thing that sticks out to me is the combination of the rite of passage with what is God doing in this young man's heart right here. Yeah, and even the attentiveness. Yeah. And work with the Spirit on each of the young men. And as a pastor, from a pastor to another pastor, I think what you guys have built, that I've never seen anything like it. And I think it needs to be somehow, without compromising the quality of it. Yeah. I think it needs to be an experience that tens, hundreds of thousands of young men experience in our nation.
Amen. Amen. Yep. I agree 100%. And I think the Lord's stirring some sort of dream like that in our heart and even maybe in your heart. And I don't think either of us know what that looks like, but we want to step into it. And it feels like something God has built us for.
Yeah.
But it requires resources and all sorts of things that we don't have access to currently. And so we'll keep walking in faith. I want to talk about, I'm tempted to walk through the whole weekend and break it down in pieces and just ask how you felt at each point along the way. But we'd be here for hours and hours and hours. So Friday is field craft training, where the boys get a ton of kind of trade craft, survival skills taught to them that they're going to need to survive on the course. And so that's a full day. It's a 14, 16-hour day with a lot of fun things thrown in. Saturday morning they wake up, they're given a set of tools, equipment, survival gear, briefed on the course and the rules of engagement, given the unique challenges, broken up into their teams, commissioned, and then we start inserting them into the course. And once they're gone and into the course, they're in the hands of the instructors. What was it like watching your boys head off in those gators into the course? What kind of emotions were you feeling?
I would say similar to the first experience. I'm speaking in code, but there's just, you're out of control, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I don't like to be out of control, and so I think that there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I would say there's also the anticipation of what God could do in their hearts through this.
Yeah.
So I felt like that unique combo of, okay, there's no turning back on my end, right? I've released them.
Yep.
So now might as well fully release them rather than worry about it. So I think I slept better that night than any of the other nights.
Wow.
But in the midst of it is just that now at that point, all I can do is pray for them, right? Yeah. And my prayer is, God, let them get what you want them to get out of this, right? Like do your work in them and let them receive it.
Yep, that's right. One of the things I tell the dads is, at the end of the day, what we want, because part of the rite passage is you as a dad have to know what you're aiming for in the life of your son. If you're trying to raise a man, okay, what is a man? If you can't answer that question, you don't know what you're attempting to accomplish. And so I tell the dads, like, lots of different angles and vectors of attack to look at this, but at the end of the day, we want boys whose hearts are tender and open to Jesus, who are full of the Holy Spirit, and who care about the right things.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. If our sons grow up with all the right answers and the Bible verses in their head and whatever, but at the level of their desire, they don't care about the right things, we've lost. If we can win at the art of whetting their appetite for those things that matter most and giving them a passion to pursue them with all of their might, whether or not we are here to help them or not, they will finish the task.
It's good. I had to write that down.
I'll pause this. One of the things I love about you, and I say as often, is you are a consummate learner, and you take more notes than any other man I know, except maybe me. And we've been in a lot of cohorts together, and you're more successful than most in most any rooms that you're in, and I'm blazing away, and you're over there scribbling down, and we'll come out of course and be like, did anyone else take a single note? Like, what did they show up for? What are they doing? I mean, like, aren't we all trying to learn? And so,
my philosophy is, I'm here, I might as well learn.
Totally. Absolutely, man. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time. I mean, you've asked me more questions than anyone else except for maybe Josh Howerton. And I always marvel when I get around you guys. I'm like, these guys are smarter than me. These guys lead bigger ministries than me. And it's not that you view me as up here and you down here. It's that any environment you men go into, you're there to learn. And you're there to learn from anyone who's there to take and apply to the assignment God's given you. And I think it's one of the distinctive marks of successful leaders. They're in a constant posture of learning and absorbing and growing. And so I love that about you.
I think one thing too is, I do see you as a mentor, and there may be areas of my ministry that, we're in similar levels of experience or whatever, but on family and parenting and building out work among men. So what I like to do is find those areas where I feel like the Lord's putting his finger on and say, how do I get around men who are way beyond me and learn from them? And I know I'm going to feel like an idiot and I'm going to be exposed for my ignorance.
Yep.
But I'd rather be exposed for my ignorance and grow than remain ignorant the rest of my life.
That's right. Know? That's right.
So
that's good, man. That's so good. So let's do this. We got to Saturday night, and the boys are in the course, and the dads are down in base camp, and I walk them through a series of exercises, assessing their dad, themselves as dad, their sons under their leadership, and then try to help guys make a plan. And the day got away from us a little bit, and we got up to Overwatch to check in on the boys, and came back, and we were a little behind we were a little behind in the normal schedule and flow. And I said, hey guys, instead of going away and making a big hairy plan, you're going to go away and ask 3 questions. And it's what is God the Father saying to me as his son? Second question was, what does my son need to hear from his father before I leave? And then what's the 1 or 2 things that I could do to move the needle in the heart of my son? And the last thing was put a day on the calendar and hold that you're accountable to it. They're going to go away, take half a day or a day, and you're going to build out this plan. So went with those 3 things, and guys had a couple hours, and then we came back around the fire, and we just shared. And some profound things came out of that time. Yeah. And I was going to ask, I think you shared one thing that night, but you told me the Lord gave you 7 or 8 things. You got a lot of work on, right?
Yeah.
And the working assumption was God wants to speak to his sons.
Yeah. If
we would give time to listen. And God did. I mean, every man in the circle, it's like, as he said, I feel like I heard the Lord saying X, Y, Z. As he said it, having only known those men for 3 days and some of their unique challenges, I had the distinct thought, that's exactly what a good father would say to that man.
Yeah, yeah.
There was nothing that said, I was like, I don't know about that. Or, oh, that was cookie cutter. Or, oh, that was a rubber stamp, bumper sticker, Christianese thing. It's like, no, that's exactly what a personal father would say to his son. And like in the middle of the Indiana Mountains, up there in the middle of nowhere with no cell service, God can speak to his sons. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need Wi-Fi and podcasts and cell service to speak to his boys. He can talk to him anywhere. And so it was just a profound reminder for me. God wants to talk to his sons. And Dad, you're a son.
Yeah.
Before you can be a dad, you need to be a good son, right? Mm-hmm. So you can share as much or little as you want. I know some is personal, but what was Heavenly Father saying to his son Andy?
Yeah. Well, let me just make a comment about that, because I think a lot of guys have different experiences with how that will work for them. Like I think you talked about some see, some hear. Yeah. The way I have experienced God, the Father, Holy Spirit,
yep,
or Jesus.
Yep.
Let's make sure we include all 3 of them. The way I experience God speaking to me is typically there'll be a line like, this is what I want to say to you.
Yes.
And it will drop into my mind.
Yep.
And then I'll sit with it. And I'm like, Father, is that you? And then I'll think about it from different angles. And usually what I notice about the Father and when he communicates to me, it's usually a statement that comes with an encyclopedia. Like,
what do you mean by that?
Well, there's like one statement that is so much to unpack.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, the 2 things I really felt like the Lord spoke to me on that I've just been unpacking the last 2 days.
Yeah.
1, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pleased with your intentionality, your faithfulness, staying in there. There are a lot of times you wanted to quit. You kept re-engaging.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job. You're a good father. That's one. Second one is I gave you a hard assignment.
Yeah.
Because I knew I could trust you. It's good for you. Mm-hmm. I knew you would finish it.
Yeah.
And so I think that those 2, I mean, there's a lot more, but so that one about the hard assignment, I've been thinking about that last 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking a lot about how hard assignments, everybody has hard assignments.
Yeah.
Like somebody might have gotten married to a woman and it looked like it was going to be a certain way. And then after they got married, things came out and it's totally different. Yeah. Everybody has to eat humble pie and take on hard assignments.
Yep.
And what are your mindsets when you jump into a hard assignment? So like, for example, if you take the soils, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, some soil is harder than other soils.
Yeah.
Some soil is sow a seed 100x.
Yeah. What's
your mindset on that? Well, the principles of farming are more important with hard soil.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
So if I'm tempted to be like, oh, I'm going to slough that off because my assignment's hard. Yep. They don't know. They don't understand. Yep. It's like, no, I need to listen.
That's
like,
right.
It's harder, but I need this more
That's
than
right.
somebody that has an easy assignment.
That's right.
So I think that refusal to like let hard assignments be an excuse.
Yes.
Is really important.
That's good.
And then secondly, that I just have been unpacking is like, you know, the temptation with a hard assignment is either to look out the side window and compare to somebody else's assignment.
Yep.
Or look in the rear and shame yourself for what you could have done differently.
Yep. Or you think you could have done differently.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, and genuinely, I mean this with all honesty. I've been doing my best with the tools God's given me since I've been 15.
Yep.
There's not been a season of my life that I've been walking in disobedience to the Lord since through high school.
Yep.
So to look in the rearview mirror, now I'll take lessons and be like, okay, if as we look to the future with Karis, who's 12, what do I want to absorb from the last 18 years with Cademan and 16 years with Sammy?
Yep.
But I refuse to allow Satan to take my chair and turn it around when there's a wheel in front of me that needs to be handled.
Yep, that's right.
And so all that to say, one line from our Father, if we will receive it, comes with an encyclopedia to chew on, to let it get into your soul. I mean, that soil statement, that's right from the Word of God, right? So I find when I make space and I'm like, Lord, speak, and I open my journal, I'm saturated in the Word. He gives me bullet points. He gives me bullet points to chew on. So,
and what I've seen you do, Andy, that I've learned from you is you take that phrase and then you set it in your soul, you chew on it, you reflect on it, you get everything you can from it, and then you set it as a flag that you move towards. So like when you were up here with you and Stacy last year, we were just hanging out, and on the flight home, you felt like God gave you a word, and it was a relationship to obedience. And as soon as you said the phrase, I was like, that is so good. And then I've heard you reference it countless times in conversations since. And so God just deposits that word. So unpack just briefly, if you want, the word God gave you on the flight home, because you were going home to work on stuff with the family. You're excited for it because you're a learner. You're wanting to grow a strong family, strong marriage, and always be building and learning. And the word God gave you is so instructive, I think, for men in general.
Yeah. So Psalm 119:60.
Yes.
King David says, I will hasten and not delay to obey your commands, oh God. And that urgency of obedience. So I'm on the plane, I've got my iPad out, I'm trying to, get my week schedule, trying to get together with Cademan. I felt like I needed to get together and apologize for how I've been trying to control things. It's a pattern for me. And that I needed the visual the Lord gave me. This was a vision, was you're in the stream trying to catch the crap in the stream, and you need to get out of the stream and focus on what you're putting into the stream. So that image, that when it came to me, I knew I needed to get together with him for breakfast and apologize to him for being in the stream. So he was dating a girl that was not the right one, very clearly not the right one. And I'm like, every week I'm like, when are you going to break up with her? And so it's like, you get out of that, give him a book on how to choose a spouse, tell him you're willing to help. But anyways, long story. In the midst of it, we're going back and forth trying to find a time. And I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, do it tomorrow. Like, you're getting in at midnight tonight, but take him to breakfast tomorrow morning. Do not delay. Do not delay. And that really became a mantra for me. I mean, it was a pattern already,
Yes.
but it crystallized for me. Like the urgency to obey the voice of the Lord when he speaks.
That's right.
And I think that there are a lot of men who hear the voice of God.
Yep.
And then they just come up with all these reasons why I can't. I'm too busy. I've got this going on. It costs too much money. And
excuse.
Yeah. And I have discovered if I move towards obedience, God provides the solution.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
So if I'm waiting for the solution before I move, it will not happen.
Ooh. That's good.
That's
good.
Journey of
Dude, if the solution was there, it required no faith.
Yeah.
God's looking for the obedience of faith.
Go to a land I will show you.
That's right.
Not a land I have shown you.
That's right. That's good. That's something I've witnessed in your life, bro. Our whole friendship is you are quick to obey. I mean, we've been on the phone call. You'll call and we'll be asking, you'll ask a question, something, we're talking, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "I'm texting so and so," and I'm like, "With what?" You're like, "Well, what we just talked about." I mean, we were at a friend's house in California, and we were talking about
capital campaign.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even go into that or not, but you were moving toward it, and I just said, "Hey, for the record, as your friend, here's my thoughts," and you were like, "You're totally right," and I was like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "I'm canceling it," and you just like you were making huge decisions that implicated hundreds of people.
Yeah,
because once you saw it.
Well, for context on that one, we had a meeting with a consultant.
Yeah.
That afternoon at like 2:30 p.m. on our break at the cohort.
Yeah.
And it was like 1:30.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like solidifying. We'd had a conversation about it the night before and another conversation.
Yeah.
And it hit me in the second one is like, you're right. I need to cancel this whole thing or at least delay it.
Well, the church wasn't ready. Your staff wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the word was not, the word was canceled this for now, the campaign.
Yep.
And so there were 30 people gathering at 2:30 for a Zoom to plan the whole thing. And they I was like 10 minutes early. We're not doing it now, right? Yep. So I'm like texting the guy. So I watched like 30 people walk into the room and walk out. It was really funny. But I think that's you just have to, with obedience, you have to be like, I'll deal with the consequence later.
That's right.
Or consequence is not the right word. Fallout. Yeah.
Right. But even in that moment, that's off track from Mancard. But that was a year and a half, 2 years ago now. I forget. But that was a big decision that impacted a lot of people, and you got clarity quickly, and there was a peace. And then I saw you make that decision as a leader, and you're like, and the calculus wasn't, I know what I should do, but what's the cost? The calculus was, I know what I should do. I know what I should do. Now, how do I execute?
Yeah.
And I think God blesses that kind of leadership because he's looking for people who count the cost and say yes, not who count the cost and hesitate.
Yeah.
Because God's Spirit moves to the bold. God's Spirit moves to the courageous. He's like, I don't get excited about helping people who don't need my help. And you only need my help if you obey me.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Well, I think one key mindset on this for men is that often in our decision making, it's almost like, let's say you're 25, 30 years old. It's almost as if you think when you're 45, you're going to be a different person.
Yeah.
But in reality, you're on that same continuum.
Bro.
And the decision making is like you're rapidly becoming the person that you will one day be.
That's right.
Woo. And so every time a decision is delayed, even like I think about this with a lot of conversations with young men that I have.
Yeah.
That I love and I know deeply. But just like, man, that sin, is talking to a 18, 19, 20-year-old kid.
Yeah.
That sin, I've seen that sin at 45 in men's lives.
That's right. That's right.
And what I'm saying to you is pretty much all of them that I know that are 45 that struggled with that.
Yeah.
At 18, they were in it and they didn't make the hard decision then.
That's right.
And now they're losing their wife because they didn't deal with the porn then.
Yep.
And so the urge, I think we're afraid of urgency in our culture.
Yep.
Like there's a fear of, we're so coddling of people that we're afraid to put the urgency on
That's right.
the difficult decisions
That's right.
now.
That's right. there's just a kind of spirit of Joe Rigney's line, toxic empathy. I think that was his line. Maybe, untethered empathy. I can get it right. Don't quote him wrong. Has kind of just lulled everyone to sleep. It's okay, not a big deal, no urgency.
Yeah.
And deal with it tomorrow. And what you're saying is my gosh, if we don't help these young men have a sense of urgency in their life, those things that feel fun now will be the same things that cripple them later.
Yes.
And what we saw even, at Mancard, there was one kid who was just repeatedly being a little stubborn and just not doing simple things. And it's like, part of the tactic of the instructors is we give them simple things to do that they may not understand, but that they are capable of doing to test their heart, to see if they're willing to submit. And, I think God does that with us.
Yeah.
He gives us simple things. He's not asking us to do sometimes the impossible things. He asks us to do simple things that we may not understand why we're to do them, but we're all capable of doing.
Yeah.
And it's a test of our heart. It's a test of the posture of our heart. Are we submitted to him? Do we trust him even when we don't quite understand? And so there was a situation where there was this one kid who was just like, just not doing it. And it was a test of the integrity of the program. It was a test of the rules themselves. Do we actually mean what we say? Will there be consequence? And so the instructors, he went through several stages of fieldcraft training there, and the instructor saw it right out of the gate. And we all agreed, as we're talking here, let's pause, let's wait for two things to happen. Let's give him a chance to self-correct. And if he doesn't, let's give the team a chance to correct him. Like, hey, dude, get your act together. Both failed. He didn't correct himself, and his team didn't correct him. So we talked about 45 minutes. We talked, and we're like, okay, here's how we're going to deal with this. So, boop, pause the whole exercise. Everyone puts their heads up, come together. It's been brought to our attention here that one of us has not been adhering to the standard that we set. The standard was clearly communicated. You acknowledged you'd received it, and now there's been a wanton disobeying of it. So there's going to be a consequence. Boom, called the kid out with his team. So he comes out with the team he's with, and he's there. And bro, I could tell, I could sense in my spirit, in my heart, that kid was ready for the consequence. He was like, bring it. Tell me to do 20 push-ups, I'll do 30. Like I ate this stuff for lunch. And he was ready for it. You know what I mean? And there was just kind of like this, like, it felt like a stubborn resilience in the unhealthy way in his spirit. And then the instructor implemented the plan we put together, and he threw a curveball. He said, so as a result of him not adhering to the standard, stay standing, please. The rest of you guys, drop down the plank position. And his whole team has to drop in the plank position. Push-ups on my mark, down. Up, down, up. And this continues for longer than they wished it would, while the one who had committed the crime stood and had to watch. And there was great power in that moment.
Yeah.
And you could see instantly his spirit changed, because he was like, well, I wasn't meaning for my rebellion to affect you guys. I just didn't want to do it myself.
Yeah.
But what he learned quickly was, when we're stubborn and rebellious, it doesn't just affect us. It affects everyone else around us negatively. And the punishment that broke through in that moment was making him watch consequences be inflicted on his teammates. Mm-hmm. Right? And two things that got accomplished there. One was I think we got through that kid in that moment in a way we hadn't before. And there was still work to do, right? But the second lesson that was being taught there, hey guys, on the team, maybe you're more motivated now to make sure everyone on the team does their job. Mm-hmm. And part of the urgency that you're talking about that we need men to have in churches is, don't just go to church with guys that you see are milquetoast, middle of the road, limp-wristed, halfway obey Jesus when it's comfortable. You need to have a sense of urgency. Like, hey, if you drop the ball, that affects all of us. If you walk in mediocre, middle of the road, half-hearted, lukewarm follower of Jesus, that affects the temperature of our house, of this church. And that affects my kids and me, and maybe even the favor of God itself. So get your act together. I need you to carry your load. And such an important lesson for men to learn. We need to give each other permission. We need to give the men around us permission to have urgency with us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want, because if they'll allow me to violate the standard, they're now tempted to give themselves that same permission.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the illustrations I think about with this, with men, myself included, is when you think about the vast number of men that are just sleeping through life.
That's right.
And the moment where Jesus is with the disciples and he comes back and he's there doing it right.
Yep.
He's, Father, if there's another way, let it be, not my will, your will be done.
He's wrestling through the cost of obedience to the point of sweating tears of blood.
And he comes back his boys are zonked out from their red wine,
tired, taking a nap.
Yeah.
Dude.
And that description of how many men live like that. If you think about sleeping through life, there's different ways you could think about it. You could think about it in a bed.
Yep.
I think a better way to think about it is you're behind the wheel of a car.
That's
and you've got your family in the car with you.
That's right.
And it's like, wake up.
Yep.
Wake up.
Yep.
And I also think there's a lot of men, and this is my word. This is one of my words, was like, there's a lot of times where you're at the wheel and you're awake.
Yeah.
And you've been driving a long time.
Yep.
I'm speaking to mid to upper 40s.
Yep. Yep.
You've been doing it a long time. You've been driving.
Yep.
But it's like, stay awake.
Yeah.
It's late at night. You've been driving a long time.
Yep.
But this is not a time to fall asleep.
No.
No. And just that urgency.
Yep.
Wake up.
Yep.
That is the journey I go on a personal level.
Yes.
And I try to think through what are the consequences of me being asleep at the wheel in my life. Like,
write them down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just that urgency, the sustained. I think the other thing too, Josh. So I'm almost mid 40s. You've crossed the threshold.
Yeah, bro. The Rubicon's been crossed. Yeah. 46 yesterday.
I think for a lot of men who start young with passion, that people will say things like, well, it's not going to be like that forever. And what I would say is one of the lines I've heard some of our friends use is this idea of sustained urgency.
Yeah.
And I genuinely believe, as a man in the kingdom of God, as a husband, as a father, as a follower of Jesus, it's possible to live with a sustained urgency with our lives.
That's right.
And that's what I want. And I will also say, being around other men with that same sustained urgency, that's why I love being around you. It's like you're in the game. Yeah. You're in the game in your heart for God. You're in the game with your family, with the church. And when you're around other men who have that fire in them, it's like, again, back to the cohort, we love parking lots. Yeah. We love staffing decisions. That's all great. But we want to be a part of a movement that sweeps across a nation.
That's right.
That this is potentially the next great awakening.
That's right.
And it calls for pastors, men.
That's right.
It calls for us to be awake at this hour.
That's right. That's right. I love you, my man.
Love you too, brother.
I love you deeply. I learn from you. I'm challenged by you. I'm encouraged by you. It's an honor to run with you. Final takeaways from the experience of Mancard. What you learned, what's stamped on your heart right now, and what would you say to other men listening?
There's like a million directions I could go.
Well, I'm looking at the list of stuff you sent me this morning.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, you had Lord is stirring in your heart.
Let me just rattle off a couple things.
It's been a big weekend.
Yeah. Let me rattle off a couple things. One, I think on the manhood journey, I'll speak to guys with hard assignments.
Yeah.
Don't.
There you go. You got dads listening.
Yeah.
Stubborn sons. Hard assignment. You're in the game. It's like nothing's working.
Refuse to look out your side. Refuse to live life in the rear. Mm-hmm. The other thing I would say is make a conscious decision to fight for the unity of your marriage.
There you go.
And if you have a difficult assignment with a child, do not let that difficult assignment become a difficult assignment in your marriage.
Bro.
Right?
Unpack that, man.
Well, Stacy and I have been through the ringer.
Yes.
We're still standing. She has her teeth. I don't have mine, And what you walked through, what you experienced without going into detail, and the complexity of some of the decisions we have to make in our hard assignment.
Yeah.
We've been in it for 18 years.
Yeah.
But man, I love that girl.
That's right.
I love that girl.
Yep.
She is a godly, noble woman.
Yes.
Who has walked with humility, teachability, kept getting better.
Yep.
And we've had hard times in our marriage.
Yep.
There have been moments where we've realized the enemy is inadvertently using our hard assignment with kids or a kid or whatever to pull us apart. And we have to come back and be like, no, we have covenanted together.
Yes.
And we don't want to just endure marriage.
That's
like
right.
we want to enjoy it at the same time.
That's right.
And I'm gonna fight for that.
Yeah.
I would also say learning lessons in the rear for me. So not living in the rear, but lessons in the rear.
Rear view mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get the whole phrase.
Yeah. Lessons in the rear view mirror.
Lessons
Thank
from
you.
the rear.
Lessons in the... Oh man, maybe we should cut that out. One of the lessons looking back is I think in the context of suburbia, I think that we have been educated by culture to coddle our children.
Yeah.
And your statement about affirmation and difficulty,
adversity,
affirmation and adversity.
Yeah.
That was a big takeaway for me.
Moment.
Yeah. Of like, our sons can handle.
That's right.
Like my dad used to say to me, you're tough. You can handle it. Right.
You can figure it out.
You can figure it out.
Yep.
And our sons can handle a lot more than we think they can.
That's right.
And we lower our minimum standard for men.
That's right.
Because of what culture teaches us about manhood.
Yep.
And I think I'm walking away with a renewed sense of I have affirmed my sons.
Yes.
I have said I'm proud of you tens of thousands of times. Now I've spanked them many times. But well, Sammy's gotten like 4 his whole life.
Yeah.
Cademan's gotten about 40,000. There were days where he got 10.
Yeah.
But in their teenage years, there are times where I think I've gotten lulled into seeing them younger than they are.
Yes.
And to really understand 18-year-old men go off to war.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And there's so much more in them.
That's right.
And a part of my role as a father is not just to affirm them, but it's to allow them and sometimes even to push them into adversity.
That's right.
So that they can become who God's created them to be.
That's right.
So I think that's the biggest shift.
Yep.
And then there's about 30 more.
Bro, that's super good.
Things.
Maybe we'll do another podcast to unpack them as you're thinking through them.
Yeah.
We could do another one to unpack them apart.
Yeah, because I might miss my flight.
Yeah, because we do have to go. But honestly, it's a huge takeaway for dads is part of your job, and it can be very fun, is to create adversity in a controlled environment for your sons to learn lessons and fail under your leadership, so you can teach them lessons so that when they go into the moments of adversity that aren't in a controlled scenario, they won't fail.
Yep.
That's a huge lesson. There's this crazy video that we posted, and it's like, it gets like a zillion views every time I post it. And literally it's me saying something like, get a season ahead of your son, use the ability, his desire to drive a tractor to help him learn to be responsible, blah, blah. There's like nothing profound about it. And every time you post it, boom, 1 million views. And it's like, what is it about that clip? And it's speaking to what you're saying is we get behind in our parenting, and we get focused on parenting our kids where they're at, rather than focusing on parenting our children toward who we want them to become. That's an entirely different focus. If you're focused on parenting your children where they're at, because they're always moving and growing, you're by definition behind.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you're looking at them here, whoosh, they've already moved. You have to shift your focus, and you have to get ahead of where they are at currently and think about, where do I want them to end up, and how do I want them to be when they get there? That's what you have to define, articulate, focus on. And then when you're focused there, you can pull back and go, okay, if that's where I want us to go and that's who I want them to be, and we're currently here, we need to make some changes or adjustments or whatever you need to do. And so getting a season ahead of your sons and then anticipating, what kind of adversity will my son face? Now, I can't predict some of it, but I can predict some of it, because Satan doesn't have a new playbook. He's going to use lust and temptation and idolatry and success and image and all these kinds of things. And so, okay, how can I create many environments of adversity in a controlled situation where they can fail and not lose? Mm-hmm. Where they can fail and then I can instruct and they can learn. So when I'm not there and adversity comes and the environment isn't controlled, they won't fail, they'll win.
Yeah. Yep. So good.
Yep. And so that's part of what Mancart is, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've got one of those. We could keep going, but I have one of those experiences with one of my sons.
Yeah.
That if he will receive it,
yes,
could be a defining moment for him.
That's right.
In humility and vulnerability.
That's right.
And it gives me, that example gives me months and months and months of opportunity for what he'll face in the future.
Yep. But that phrase defining moment makes me think of one last experience this weekend. And there was a kid who we got in the face of and was like, this is a defining moment and you have a decision to make. And it was very hard for him.
Yeah.
And the confession he made was, I'm afraid, which was a win, because one of his dragons was, I'm not afraid, I'm tough, I'm confident, I got this.
Yeah, in fact, that kid said his word to say how he was on the front end was, I'm confident.
Yeah, that's right. We have all those kids stand up and say, what's the word to capture? And most boys are like uncertain, fearful, anxious, uncomfortable. And this kid's word was confident, And of course, all the men there were like, I mean, I have 18 instructors. These are world-class law enforcement, military, successful guys, dudes, and about 8 of them were like,
yeah, they raised up.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see about that. Challenge accepted. This kid was fearful. He's like, I can't do this thing you're asking me to do. And what happened to the confident kid? The confident word was a show to hide the fact that this is about a 5-year-old kid with 5-year-old fears. He's just a boy. Mm-hmm. And the willingness to admit that was part of the win. Why don't you want to do this? Because it's dumb. Well, we're asking you to do it. Well, I don't have to do it. And we finally got through. I'm afraid. Okay, that was Norris. Now we're trafficking in truth. Yep. Now God can work here because we're dealing in the realm of truth. This is good. And our word to him was, son, this is a defining moment. And the environment is safe. You're not going to get hurt. You have men who love you and are cheering for you. It will never get easier than this right here. Mm-hmm. Because the adversity you face out there, you may not have brothers around you. The bullets will be real, and you have no guarantee of safety. So if we can't conquer it here, there's no chance, and you're conquering it out there. And he sat, he wrestled, and a few good men got in his face, and he was like, I'm doing it. And so we went out, and we articulated his fear in front of the whole Mancard cycle. And they all gathered around, and they watched him conquer his fear. Mm-hmm. It was a huge moment. We cheered, we gave him an attaway, prayed over him. It was great. I thought, we made it. The next morning, that kid was like, I'm not going to the course. And I was like, what? I thought we fixed this. And so I went to talk with him. And he was back in this is dumb, and I wish I wasn't here, the whole thing. And I got in his face more aggressively than I ever have with any other kid at Mancard. Saying things that will be left at Mancard, and for him to carry in his heart. And one of the things I said was, son, this is a defining moment in your life. And he said, you said that yesterday. I thought yesterday was a defining moment. And something in me snapped.
Rightfully so.
I mean, snap. I was like, hey, wake up, dude. Every day is a defining moment. I could go screw someone who's not my wife today, and guess what? That is going to be a defining moment. I go through every day of my life as a man on the precipice of a defining moment, hinging on obedience to God or disobedience to God. And I was like, wake up, dude. Like, what do you think this journey is about? Becoming a stronger man is about waking up to the reality that every moment is a defining moment.
Yeah.
And I think the Lord he gave me a word for him. And I had never thought of it in those terms, but it's exactly what you're saying. Wake up, men.
Yeah.
Wake up. Right now, as you're listening to this, driving to work or working out or wherever you're listening, this is a defining moment because God has used some things Andy has said or we've talked about here to speak to your heart, to reveal something you need to change, and now it's on you. What are you going to do with it? And so just the takeaway for me from Mancard this weekend was every moment, as a man who's in a war where the bullets are real is a defining moment. And so you need the Spirit of God, you need humility, you need courage, and you need a cadre of men around you who won't let you fail in your hour of testing.
So good, man.
So
I love you.
I love you too,
I'm so
Andy.
grateful for you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
You have been such a blessing and support and a good brother to me.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for this weekend and opportunity to be a part of your podcast.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Last 30 seconds, shameless plug for men listening. We don't have the capacity for more men. If they signed up, I don't know what we'd do with them. But if we had 1,000 guys sign up, we'd figure it out. What would you tell men about Mancard?
It's a catalyst. So if you're trying to move in a direction of raising your sons to follow God, it's a catalyst, accelerant. But for a lot of men, it will be a complete trajectory shift to a whole new level of engagement and even rhetoric, words, even concepts that maybe are unfamiliar to you. But most importantly is what God will do in your son and in your relationship with your son as a result of it. So do it now.
Stay awake. Do it now. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
I love you. Hey everyone, Pastor Josh here. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate the podcast, review, follow, and share. And if you want to support Stronger Men Nation, you can go to strongermennation.com/give to help keep unwoke, uncensored, straight talk Bible teaching coming to you for free.